4. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the second hour of the Santita Jackson Show on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. We have had some fun today talking about the State of the Union address, what we saw. You know, when it's in the rearview mirror, there's some things that you notice that you maybe didn't notice in real time. Attorney Terry O'Neill, former national president of the National Organization of Women, Reverend Dr. Todd Geary, of course, the pastor of the iconic Douglas Memorial Community Church in Baltimore, Maryland. I think you had someone who was the previous pastor. What my? Oh, that's right. Raphael Warnock. Yeah, you know him. But of course, he's from the national leadership team of Rainbow Push, and he's also a brilliant lawyer. And he has been itching, itchy owie, to talk about. We're going to bring on Chaparral, a voice of the people, who has an Intercept podcast, somebody that has been downloaded more than 2 million times. Has won many awards in the United States and around the world, talking about the tragic death of her son, who police did not attend to as he lay dying. And she has courageously carried on that fight to make sure that does not happen to anyone else. But keen political insights, and I cannot wait to get her back up on here, because I know she wants to talk about Katie Britt, who has been pilloried from coast to coast by people on the right and the left and in between. She even, according to this is from The Guardian, this is the headline: Republicans baffled by Katie Britt's State of the Union response. One of our biggest disasters, they say. And we want to know what your thoughts are about the State of the Union. Do you feel better about the president now that the bar was so low, unfortunately, but he did perform and he met and exceeded many expectations stylistically? But what about substance? What about voting rights? What about migrant rights? What about reproductive justice, which impacts maternal mortality? Black women are at the bottom. Probably Indigenous women are beneath us. It's awful. God, we've had a lot of struggles in the wealthiest country on earth, the most endowed country on earth. Of course, Gaza. Most Americans, the overwhelming majority of us want a ceasefire. The Biden administration is calling for a ceasefire, ... for 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. It's like you're not hearing me. So we got a lot to talk about today. I'm going to bring on, but I want to get your reaction. First, your reaction, Reverend Dr. Geary, to Katie Britt, Madam Dystopia. Katie Britt's Republican response to Joe Biden's State of the Union address, your reactions ranging from the baffled to the satirical to the appalled, even among fellow right-wingers. And I'm not an unnamed Trump advisor told Rolling Stone, quote, "What the hell am I watching right now?" Another unnamed Republican strategist told the Daily Beast, "It's one of our biggest disasters ever. OMG. What is this?" Okay, look, you, Terry, I don't even know where to begin. And I can't wait for Chaparral to come back, because Chaparral, get back over here, girl. I mean, Reverend Dr. Geary, why did you think it was important that we look at this as we're looking at the state of our union?
Well, I don't think it was important that we look at it. Unfortunately, it was imposed upon us because we often want to hear what is going to be the opposition party's response to the incumbent president's presentation to the nation. So that's one. It almost felt like this was a teaser, a setup for us to watch the updated version of Birth of a Nation.
Oh.
Wow.
I mean, it couldn't have been any more cynically lily white, affluent, privileged, and disconnected from the reality. Forget people of color. He didn't relate to most white folk. That's how offensive it was. When Republicans come out and say it was the biggest disaster, basically what they're saying is she didn't relate to white people. And did it in such a way that was just so disingenuous from the way it was presented. You know, we talk about the president and reading the teleprompter. I don't know what the hell she was reading.
But it was vetted. You cannot get on those stages unless your speech is vetted. Mm-hmm. I mean,
Well, so here's part of it, right? Um, the speech is vetted, but when you are responding live, they're not going to cut you off live. So I'm not sure if that was version one or the version she felt she wanted to go with once she knew that the lights were on and the camera was rolling. So you don't get a redo. There's no retake. But let's just say it was vetted. And if it was, then it says to us where the Republican Party is coming from in their attempt to hustle the country to let Donald Trump return to 1600 Pennsylvania
well,
Avenue.
let me establish for you, because I've been in the position. It was vetted. They even regulate, no joke, the color that you wear when you come on those stages. I remember what they said. They told my mother, I think it was in 1984, that she could not wear red coming on the stage. I mean, this thing is heavily regulated. It ain't, this ain't no happenstance. It looks free flowing. They even raise the, the podium, lower, they adjusted for your height. I mean, you are not going to get up there. They don't do the loosey goosey. They don't. Even the Democrats don't do the loosey goosey. Now, the Republicans don't. They just got loosey goosey talking.
They got crazy. Now, if it were vetted, then here's no. Let me finish. If it were vetted, then here's my new problem. I then am further offended by the false outrage coming from the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. If this is a message that you crafted, it's a message that you constructed, it's the message that she read, then this really ain't about Katie Britt. Mm-hmm. This is about the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. And so now we got to pull this lens back a little wider and let's talk about what's going on in the body politique of the Republican Party that says that is the message that is going to shore up. And we know who she was talking to, the IVF argument, and to create the paranoia and the fear around the very tragic death of the young college student in Georgia. Right. So that's so you're pulling at levers, but what you're really trying to do is try to counter a speech that you didn't anticipate was coming. And because you were caught off guard, now you have to try to appeal to the dignity of a certain kind of whiteness. Not the universal whiteness, not the whiteness that regular white folk have to live with, understanding that gas is high for them, food is high for them, childcare is high for them too. I'm going to sit in my comfortable kitchen as the first woman senator from the very respectable state of Alabama, or as my good friend Reverend Dr. Tommy Lewis calls it, Alabackwards. And then that's what we're going to put out there as the message. And so I think what it has said is that now we have if I'm on the Democratic side and I'm trying to do the run up leading up to anything they want to do that's going to have Donald Trump on the other side, I am playing Katie Britt's response to the State of the Union in a loop and saying, if you all vetted this, taking your point, Santita, if you all crafted it and you all vetted it, you need to be made to answer for it, because this isn't even about Katie Britt. This is about the Republican Party and what it is trying to do to the rest of us in America.
And isn't that the point? This is who they actually are. Oh, like, stop playing. You're just mad. Look, when I look at Liz Cheney, Reverend Dr. Yeary, Attorney O'Neill, and all of this faux outrage, I'm going to bring you in, Chaparral. All of this faux, first of all, she is... she's our, we love her. I love her as a human being loves another human being. I said, but wait a minute. She voted with Trump 90% of the time. How is she going to be my heroine? No. Liz Cheney just has a personal axe to grind with Donald Trump, because Donald Trump took the Republican establishment out and they're mad about it. It's personal for them. So let's just stop it. And let's look at Katie Britt. She's the heart and soul of who these people are. And they put lipstick on it, busted the wig. I'm not calling her hair a wig, but if whatever, I'm going to make her look fabulous. And then there you have it. What was that address? What, help us to understand her, Terry. Help us to understand.
You know, her job was to appeal to white suburban women, right? I definitely
Was
think
she really?
Oh,
But
sure.
was she?
Yeah, that because Trump needs white suburban women, and white suburban women are very much pullable over to the Biden side. That white suburban women voted in enough numbers for Raphael Warnock that he won his Senate seat in Georgia. Notwithstanding that 60-some% of white women in Georgia overall voted for Herschel Walker, not Reverend Warren, but enough of them voted for Reverend Warner that he won his race. So Trump needs white suburban women who are abandoning the Republican Party in droves because of the overturning of Roe versus Wade. Now, white women see this as an issue of their personal freedoms. I see it as an issue of reproductive health care more broadly, and how it is devastating. It is going to continue to devastate more vulnerable women who need miscarriage care, who are not getting it, and disproportionately women of color who get miscarriages are now at risk of being prosecuted by district attorneys, right? So we know all of that is going on. And this makes white suburban women very upset and less likely to vote for Republicans. So did her performance bring in those women? I guess I would have to say that if this was 1962, yes, I think that probably would have been, I'm scared. I'm a little delicate flower of the South, and y'all need to vote with me against these horrible, scary. But in 2024, that's not what's going to do it. My personal opinion is this. I'm very cynical about the way white women vote. White women have consistently voted for Republican, for the anti-woman presidential candidate in most of the most elections, I think, since 1980. So I come to this with a certain amount of cynicism. But in 2024, with Republican racism so open, so they don't feel like they need to be using dog whistles. Right? If you're going to pull white women, you need to be more overtly racist. And I listened to her speech and I thought she was crying. She was weepy. She was incredibly annoying to listen to. I did not hear the kind of racist appeal that would actually get white women to vote for you. What I heard was kind of a namby-pamby thing. And I'm thinking to myself, white women have a problem with Republicans because of their reproductive health care. And she's not helping. Because the way to overcome that is not to say, oh, I believe in vitro fertilization. Most white women can't afford in vitro fertilization. It's $30 a pop.
$30,000.
$30,000 a pop. Yeah. The way to pull white women back over to you when they're worried about their reproductive health care is to distract them with something meaty like racism. And she didn't do that. So I think that from my perspective, I think that our side has a really good opportunity to keep pulling more white suburban women over to start thinking about, what Republicans really stand for and why it's not good to vote for them.
Put her on loop. What did you say, Joe?
Yeah.
Reverend Dr. Uri, what did you say? Wait a minute. Put her on loop and put her on billboards all across the country. And let that thing play. Chaparral Wells, your head is tilted to the side. And of course, Chaparral Wells, the Extraordinary podcast, somebody downloaded millions of times, more than 2 million times. That's as of last year. Indeed, you have spoken all over the world at the South by Southwest Festival. You've gotten so many awards. They were even this was even featured on Dateline. As we've watched her courageously fight for her son, who had been shot. We don't know who, but the Chicago police, we do know, did not attend to him, did not give him care. And he died in their custody as he was begging for his life. And so a tremendous activist and a tremendous chef. Be quiet, Reverend Dr. Uri.
Heaven rejoices every time she makes a plate. That's all I'm going to say.
But you know what? Celebrations by us, everybody. So for those of you who are within the sounds of our voices, this is one of the premier catering businesses in the country. Celebrations by us, 708-526-4546, 708-526-4546. I can tell you on Christian experience as Reverend Dr. Yuri, I know she makes a lot of dishes for the Jackson family for all of our holidays. And she cooks for Reverend Jackson on a regular because my father wants the banana pudding, which he should not have, and he wants everything that she makes. And she just gives me a little bit. Just I know that Reverend wants this. Let him have it. And my mother's like, really, Chaparral? Really? You know Reverend wants this. You know we just got to give him something that he wants. Be quiet, Reverend Huey. You're an embarrassment. Okay. Okay. Now, that she is also a political science student. So come on, give it to us, Chaparral.
Well, I can tell you, listening to the Republican response, all I can say was bless her heart, because I'm trying to figure out who was she talking to, because I understand that she's representing the Republican Party, but I'm like, do y'all understand who y'all putting forth as y'all presidential nominee? Because the person that you're talking about going to do all these miraculous things, protect women's rights. I'm like, he is totally against everything that you're saying. And so to me, it was like, okay, one of y'all lying. So is it the whole party or is it just you? Because somebody lying up here, and I can see between the lines. I was just sitting up there just like this, literally like, oh my God, what is this lady thinking? Because who are you talking to? So I said, she was definitely doing a lot of dog whistling, because I think that she was speaking to white women. However, what I'm saying is that white women, they say they're going to vote for their own reproductive rights, but the studies have shown that they have followed their husband's footsteps. Mm-hmm. And so that bag, meaning that house, that car, that security that spouse gives them, that bag trumps my ovaries. And so when they go in that booth, they end up pulling the trigger for the Republican Party, even though it's against things that they fundamentally disagree with. Mm-hmm. And so what we're seeing is that they tend to fall in line. We always hear that Democrats fall in love and Republicans fall in line. And so what I put this out here to the public is that it is not for the Republicans' race to win. It's for the Democrats' things to lose. So I put the onus on Biden. What are you going to do to protect the vote? What are you going to do? Like you mentioned, Santita, just this past Monday made 8 years that my son was passed away under these strange circumstances. And I'm still fighting to get the truth about what happened to my son that night. But more importantly, for the justice in George Floyd's Justice and Policing Act, that's important to me because I'm living these things. I know people who are going through police brutality cases and who aren't getting hurt. I know that there are still Black men being pulled over at alarming rates, who are being killed and shot down at alarming rates and under strange circumstances. These acts are being perpetrated against Black and brown people in the United States of America. So these things are very real to us. So when I look at what I want for a president, I'm looking for someone who is going to look and pay attention to what I'm asking. So when I listen to that State of the Union speech, I was looking for those key things. Why? What was he going to do? What was he going to do? Was he going to protect the voting right? Because I keep telling everybody, the Voting Act right protects him. It ensures that we can vote for you.
Hello.
So if you're telling me that you don't want to protect yourself. Why should I be sitting up here bending over backwards trying to save you, and you don't even want to save yourself? You don't even want to say, you're not doing what you know that you could do. And everybody's sitting up here, like I was listening to the Keep Hope Alive show this morning, and I was just like enraged because I'm sitting up here like, wait a minute, you're sitting up here saying that none of the executive orders don't matter. They absolutely do matter.
We had a guest who
yes,
that. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm like, they absolutely do matter because of the simple fact is that that's going to put a stop. Just like right now, you can see what Trump is doing. He like, hold up, Jim Shoe. I need some time over here. So he putting out everything to stop them from going forward and proceeding against him. That's all we asking Biden to do. To say, hold up, wait a minute. If it's tied up in the court 4-5 years, let it be tied up. But the fact that you won't even put forth that effort to sign these executive orders that will, first of all, make us fall in line with you, but also protect you at the ballot. So you're telling me that you don't even want this job. That's the way I see it, because you're not doing what you know you can do. Don't worry about if it's going to be overturned in the courts, because the courts ain't going to overturn it right away. They're going to go through the same rigmarole, just like they sitting up here lagging their feet with Trump. They're going to have to lag their feet with this too. Because if you jump on this and you letting Trump skate by, then all of America going to go up. And you thought you January 6th, when they see that the blatant suppression of voting rights is in their face, if the Supreme Court tries to overturn his executive orders, do you know what that would do to this country? It would put it on his heels. And so he knows what he can do. He knows what he also should be doing. But there's a reason why Biden is not putting forth this effort to do the Justice and Policing Act, the student loan debt concerns, as well as also the Civil Rights Act. Those three things alone, if he do those three executive orders, he will shore up the Black vote, the youth vote, and also Gaza. If he things, if he do those 4 things, he will definitely win. So if he doesn't do those things, that would be on him, Santita. And I can't help you if you don't want to help yourself. And that's what your mom always told you. You got to help yourself. You want me to help you? You better do it. You better do something for yourself.
Well, what about
always been told that?
Did the State of the Union, I mean, were you impressed at all by anything that he said or his presentation? Was there anything?
No. I mean, to be honest, Santita, you know, you sitting up here like, man, don't fall. I was like, please don't fall when you're walking down the aisle. Please don't stutter too much. You know, you sitting. That's why everybody's so excited. No, but in my mind, this is what I was literally thinking. Don't fall. Don't make yourself. Don't walk too slow. Put a little pep in your step, because everybody's critiquing him on that. And so because he didn't fall, he didn't stutter too much. He stayed pretty much on script. They think he hit a home run. But what the substance of the speech, it was empty to me. It was nothing for me in there as a Black person in America. He said nothing. He spoke not one thing to my issues that matter to me, that is going to help me to go out and vote for him.
So what are you hearing from people you're talking to?
The same thing, Santita. He did not talk to our issues. And they're still planning to protest come this Democratic convention. They're still planning to not vote for him and either a protest vote with a third party candidate or stay at home. So he has a huge issue. And so what he doesn't understand is that you can't keep playing around. You ain't going to sit up here and try to win my vote in November. The week, like they did one year, they came in October and then they scrambled it. And that's when they got the shellacking in that year I think it was 2018 when they got the shellacking and when Obama was there. You can't come to me all late. I want you to court me. I want you to wine and dine me. I want you to make me feel good all the time, not just the night before.
What did I tell you? The easy girl loses in the courtship game. Don't play. Don't play. You better look, make them work. I'm sorry, you all. I put it down where the goats can get it, Terry. And the quietest person here, MIA, is Reverend MIA. I mean, excuse me, Reverend Yuri. He ain't saying nothing.
I got nothing. Absolutely
nothing. All the women are giggling and nodding knowingly.
I'm giggling too,
Terry,
but I'm on mute. I dare not laugh out loud.
No, his head is facing down. He's reading something. Mrs. Wells, Attorney O'Neill. He has absented himself from this conversation.
No. Look, you know the rule. You don't get in any conversation that you've not been invited into. So I'm gonna sit right here. I'm on mute. No. I do think that Chappelle's take on it, right? Mm-hmm. In terms of real folk, mm-hmm. right, who are listening to what's going on, not into all of the orchestration and machinations of the State of the Union and all of this fanfare. That at the end of the day, the issue is still the substance. And so while the State of the Union does give us a bit of a sigh of relief for those of us who like Chappelle, we're like, man, please don't fall. And so they only let him take maybe 3 to 5 steps at a time before they stopped him to let him steady himself. It took him so long to get down the aisle of the chamber to finally turn the corner to greet the justices before he walked up to the dais, that I think he walked in a little after 9:15. It took him 15 good minutes to get finally to the platform where he was going to read his speech. And that was by design, mm-hmm. right? To give him time to be seen greeting, but also to steady him, to not have a pace that would cause him to lose his balance or his gait. I get that. But the substance of the agenda, when you can hear Chappelle say, he said nothing that speaks to my need. That's why these next 90 days are so critical, because if he goes into the convention summer, having not spoken to the needs of the base that he needs to have, coming out of the convention, that's where you get your boost and your excitement that gives you the wind at your back to go into whatever the early voting windows are leading up to Election Day. If he does not put any gas in the tank, his car is going to stop on the side of the road and he's going to be sitting out there waiting for political AAA to come get him. Mm-hmm. And so we got to deal with it. And when Terry was being generous about the Katie Britt thing, about, the innocent white woman back in 1962, I said, hell, that sounds like 1862 to me. She went way back to the dignity of Gone with the Wind and Scarlett O'Hara,
yes,
right?
Yes.
That kind of appeal, right? The big house, but the loyalties all confused. And basically where I came away with it is, on the president, keep the heat on him. On the response to white middle-class women and everybody else who loves them, run like hell. Because if you vote for them, I promise you will be a half step, if that, ahead of being chattel property yourself when the next slavery gets put in place.
That's right.
But Reverend Yuri, something that you had stated, I'm thinking like, okay, this convention, and I'm on the ground, and I want people to know that they're having meetings every week about this convention.
Wait, hold on. Would you say that one more time?
Yeah.
Wait a minute, because before you say that, what they're doing, Attorney O'Neill and Reverend Dr. Yuri, is they're meeting quietly. They're staying below the radar, because these young people, they don't want to be undermined, and they don't trust the system.
They don't.
So what they do is they quietly organize through their little networks, and then thousands of them pop up at Grand Central Station. Mm-hmm. Then thousands of them pop up on the streets here in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And they know I'm an ally. They'll say, nope, we're not going to say anything, because, just trust us. We'll be there. That's what's happening now. And that's why you can't really call the election, and particularly with Robert Kennedy on the come up all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you don't get angry with him, figure out why.
Mhm.
You know, what is the appeal?
Right.
Why when people hear Cornel West finally, when they're finally able to hear him, they go, oh, wait a minute. And people are very serious and deliberate about looking for some other answers to Pearl.
It's very true. And what I'm saying is that, you know, they're preparing. You know how you heard all the underground about January 6th and how they were planning to go to Washington. This is the same type, not that they're trying to do violence or anything. They're planning civil protests
And civil disobedience.
Civil disobedience in front of, you know, this Democratic convention. And the reality is that he's not going to feel very welcome in Chicago if he doesn't turn it around prior to getting here. And I'm being honest. I'm being very honest about what's happening because, you know, the activists here in Chicago are very glued to the ground. They're very in tune to what is going on as far as policy that's here. And what you're seeing is that people are rebelling against Gaza. They're rebelling against the Justice and Policing Act, as well as also the Civil Rights Act. These things are, because this is like Chicago is ground zero for police brutality. Everybody knows that. This is ground zero for us. And so we have been hit so many times with this issue and this problem that goes virtually unchecked. And so when we have the immigration process on top of that, the immigration and people are getting, you know, the immigrants are getting housed and Black people are still homeless. It is going to be a S show when it comes to this Democratic convention. And I'm going to be here for it. I'm going to be down there protesting too.
Be there for it and bring me a plate. But here's what you know, you have to have your strength and your energy to be able to do the picketing, right?
You can't. You're right. My bad. I'm sorry.
You know, you can't look. It's called self-care. You got to make sure that the foot soldiers are ready to do what they need to do. But to Chappell's point though, is this next 90 to 100 days, just like the first 100 days of a new administration, the next 100 days after the State of the Union basically takes us right up to June 30th. That puts you within about a month to 6 weeks of the convention. Wherever he is when they go on summer recess in terms of the agenda is what he's going to take with him into the convention. And if he does not move the needle in terms of pushing the policy over this next 100 days, then I think the cards will be in play for whatever they are when they get on the ground in Chicago. And I expect there are going to be a number of issues that aren't federal issues, but there are going to be other local issues that are going to come into play, and they're going to lay them at the president's feet too, because he's not setting the example in terms of the federal policy so that the states and the local governments fall into line as well. That's going to be his problem. And I hear it, I feel it, I sense it, I support it, but I'm saying to the president and to the administration, enough of the teasing with sound bites and these platitudes on stages that don't come with the substance of what are you really doing? He's got to confront Mike Johnson as the speaker. He's got to push Schumer to initiate whatever legislation needs to come out of the upper chamber, send it across the hall, and make the House deal with it and decide whether or not they're going to go into the November election without having taken any action on police reform, on voting rights, on making sure that the reinforcements that close the poverty gap for families with children coming out of COVID, those things expired, but they're trying to figure out how they're going to extend corporate tax breaks. He's got to be full throated. And I thought about this morning as we were on the radio. Whenever Barack Obama had an issue that he needed to get through the Congress, he went up to Capitol Hill. He said, y'all ain't coming to me, I'm coming to you. Take Biden. if you gotta hide a walker in the hallway, if you need one to keep him upright, whatever you got to do,
He didn't need
take
that.
him up.
You just get on
Huh?
the
But listen,
Well,
I can walk.
but his presence matters, right? He can get on the phone, but it's different because the press corps follows him everywhere.
Oh, right.
If
Yeah.
it gets out that the media says the president took the fight to Capitol Hill
Mhm.
and walked up in there to say, I want to meet with you, they're going to give him a meeting, and he can put his demands out there, and then let Mike Johnson say what he's going to say as the speaker, let Schumer decide how he's going to push the caucus to move on the upper chamber, and at least it doesn't give the impression that all he's doing is inviting folks to the White House to have tea and crumpets and not come away with any policy change.
And
And Terry-
in order to do that, he has to confront and go past his own corporate Dems like Schumer, like Nancy Pelosi. And that's where a lot of his problem lies,
Really?
is that the Democratic Party is still beholden to corporate powers, and they don't want to go too far with anything, right? And because we sit here and think, like Chaparral said, he could do executive orders. He absolutely could do that. And then when the Supreme Court or some court says, no, you can't do that, he can go rail against, this awful federal judiciary. It's been stacked for years by Republicans and then by Trump. And then that's all good for him politically, is at least make the effort, even if some other part of the government shuts you down. But he's not doing that. And why is he not doing that? Because he really is fundamentally a corporate Dem, and he does not want to cut his relationships with corporations and corporate funded Democrats. So that's a huge problem. It's not limited to just Joe Biden. It's really the Democratic Party's problem. But yeah, if he doesn't communicate to ordinary people, let's just stop listening to the corporations for a bit. Listen to the ordinary people, the Gen Zs, the people like Chaparral who actually know what's going on and respond. Yeah, we're all going to be in trouble because, as we know, Donald Trump is racist, misogynist, the white Christian nationalism is coming for all of us.
They're here.
Yes.
But the thing is,
They
as
will
black
have
people,
huge power if Trump gets reelected.
but the thing is, we've always lived with fascism. Black people have. For people who,
Right.
for
Yes.
white folks, this is new.
Yes.
For black folks, this is old.
Yeah.
So that's why. So that's why I look at Donald Trump and I'm like, okay, man. That's why I look at. That's why I look at
You
the
being
historical
nice.
Joe Biden.
This ain't new for white people. And Andrew
not.
Jackson
You ignored it.
wasn't a figment of their imagination. The Indian
But he was okay with them. The Indian killing was okay.
I get it, but
and who was it? Who showed Birth of the Nation in it? Woodrow
Wilson.
He was okay with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so the trend has always been there, right?
Yeah.
There's been this kind of tongue-in-cheek, let's kind of act like we're against white nationalist presidencies, when in reality, what they've done is they've run this hustle to protect the corporate interests, that you create this distrust amongst rank and file regular white people to make them think that everybody else is taking their jobs, like the migrants coming in to work in the fields are taking your job that doesn't make the federal minimum wage, and you ain't trying to go. First of all, we've seen the experiment where poor whites had to go pick the fruit and the cotton and the rest of it. That didn't turn out too good. That's why we ended up with institutionalized chattel slavery, that their labor capacity is limited. And so now that we're dealing with that, to now say that we've got this overrunning, Texas doesn't want them coming to the southern border, so let's disperse them all around the country and traffic in human misery, and not deal with misery at home, misery coming in at the border, all of this. This is right, but this is par for the course, because that's how corporation politics actually works.
Right.
You create enough chaos for the masses where they're too busy pointing the fingers back at each other so that they don't point the finger at you. And that's what they're trying to avoid. And that's what they've been getting away with.
And not only do you traffic people, you disperse cheap labor.
Yeah.
Okay? Because that's what this is about. Because look, when you look at Greg Abbott is not a novice at this thing. This is a man from the World Economic Forum. This is global. This is globalism at work. And this has always been about a few people at the top because Jeff Bezos is on track to become a trillionaire.
Right.
The royal family of Britain are already trillionaires.
Yeah.
Okay. So these are about fewer and fewer people controlling more and more of the resources, while many of us get sick and die.
Yeah.
And
As part of gross domestic product.
Yes.
Look, because you have people at the World Economic Forum who are talking about useless people.
Mm-hmm.
This is like I was telling someone, I think it was Attorney Sanat. I said, you have to listen to everything that people say.
Mm-hmm.
You can't cherry pick information. You got to take it all. See, that's scientific. And that's what we need to begin to listen and pay attention. But even if Dwight McKee asserts that Biden doesn't even care about being president, because the payoff is after you become president, after you leave the office. Okay, I can accept that. That having been said, it's the chaos that he's leaving in its wake.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That they're all leaving in their wake. So, for corporate interests. And I think that we have to be very, very honest. Attorney O'Neill,
Exactly.
Reverend Dr. Yeary, Chaparral Wells, about corporatism and how it is choking us to death. I mean, I love a particular brand of pickles. Just the thing, y'all, I'm too old to be pregnant. That ain't it. I just love them.
Not according to the book. Don't play.
No. Trust and believe.
That's not age.
Wait a minute. No. Remember the commercial? You don't play with Mother Nature.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
I ain't playing with her.
Was that a margarine commercial? You took me way back.
Way back. And you know what? Because I can take you way back, I can't have any more babies. And I'm all right with it. And let me tell you, because God has everything in divine order. And there's a time in your life for all of these things. That season for me is done. All I'm saying is right now, we're looking at something that is very dangerous. They're not paying attention to, as what Chaparral is saying, because we live here in Chicago. Mm-hmm. You're hearing the drumbeat, Attorney Terry O'Neill, Reverend Dr. Yeary. You're hearing people, they are planning. You're hearing people who are coming in from all over the country, and they're not anarchists. They are concerned Americans, and they are saying, wait a minute. I don't like the track that we're on. I don't know what's going to happen in Milwaukee with the Republicans, but I know with the Democrats, they are ready to have a function at the junction. There will be meetings and demonstrations everywhere. And in a moment when people are not able to eat, when the undergraduate one-year tuition at the University of Chicago is $100,000 a year. $100,000 a year. Mm. That's Columbia University. But who can do that? Right. You won't give me a break on student loans. I got to pay almost $10 for a dozen eggs. And a chicken. What? I get killed before they're born and after they're given birth to. I can't get a break. Mm-hmm. And now white people are feeling this. And white people don't do that kind of hardship well. And that's no slight. Because they came here in Anastasia Sanat and I, go back and forth about this. I said, Black Americans didn't have the immigrant experience.
Yeah, exactly.
That ain't my narrative. My narrative is Jamestown. And you stripping me naked and putting me on an auction block and opening up my body parts to examine me to see who just the most innermost parts of me. And then I'm treated like an animal for 200 years. And then Rosa Parks said every time she looked in the mirror, she saw the abuse of her ancestors, and that made her fight even harder. Mm-hmm. Reverend Jackson asked her, why didn't you move from the front of the bus? She said, they had just killed Emmett Till. Every time I thought about Emmett, every time I saw that baby's face, couldn't move. So if I'm looking in the mirror every morning, to having that memory That's because my parents carry Emmett Till's memory because they all saw that Jet magazine. And my mother and father and all of the people of that generation say, I was never the same after that.
Mm.
I can't stop fighting. And I just don't get the sense that the powers that be, the powers that are, understand
Right.
just how restless the American public are and where that can go. I think they and that is what is unsettling to me. You all, I have talked a lot. I've
And
got
I
about
think-
7 minutes left. I'm going to give each of you 2 minutes to say whatever you need to say. Chaparral, 2 minutes.
And I think that that's just it, Santita, that they don't understand where the community is, the people on the ground. They're so busy focused on what the polls are saying. The polls are not real. They're not real. So they're not really engaged to what's happening. I get text messages several times a day. They ask me on a scale of 1 to 10, what is the likelihood that you would vote for President Biden? I send them a 0. And you know what? They send me another text in a couple of more days on a scale of 1 to 10. Didn't I just tell you 0? You're not listening. I'm very clear about who I'm going to vote for and why. Until he makes some changes and those things that I need him to vote for and I need him to support, he does not have my support.
Mm-hmm.
And they go down the list and they go, because this is a trickle down thing. It's not only, the top of the ticket, but this is going to affect the down ballot too, because if people don't come out, I'm more afraid of people staying home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not afraid for them going to vote for Trump because
Right.
more than likely they're not going to vote for Trump. I'm afraid of them staying at home. And so my thing is that when I think about the upcoming convention, and I know we talked about it, I'm like, I just want you to know, President Biden, this is me, Chaparral Wells from Chicago. Hey, you cannot depend on Michelle Obama, Barack Obama, or Kamala Harris coming to save you. You have to save yourself. You have to put forth that effort and reach the people and do what we need you to do. We have already told you. Our demands are very clear. So he can't say, I didn't know what y'all wanted. Because we've been saying for 4 years, we want civil rights, George Floyd, student loan debt, healthcare. We're giving you a litmus of things that we need. So these first 3 things, you need to tackle that if you want our vote. And you're not going to sit up here and say, oh, Black people didn't vote. That's why Trump is in office. No, bro. You're not putting that on me because I told you what you needed to do and you chose to ignore what I kept on telling you. And so none of the Black elite is going to be able to say, because we already know just because they look like us don't mean that they think like us. And so we are very clear that they have already crossed over into an agenda for Black America. Ain't no love for those 3 people I mentioned in the Black community because they have sold us out. Jim Clyburn ain't gonna be able to come in here and say, vote Joe. No. No Black leader is going to be able to convince us to vote for you. You're going to have to do the work. You're going to have to make the executive orders in order for people to come out and support you. And we only supporting you because you're supporting us. But if you don't support us, we can't help you. And what the chips will fall where they will. But it won't be on Black America. Either you better go find you and import you some more people to come vote for you or something like that. Because right now, all I know is the word on the street say 68 ain't got nothing on 2024.
Well, Terry O'Neill, wonderful dovetail you've got. You've got 2 minutes.
Absolutely. Everything that Chaparral said, I would tell you that 3.5 years ago, 4.5 years ago, I was living in Portland and I'm driving along innocently. And this young man is driving a car. He's up ahead of me. And I noticed that he has a bumper sticker. And he's a young white man, obviously in his 20s because he has a man bun, it's Portland. And his bumper says Bernie, right? Bernie for president in 2020. And then over next to it, because this was after the Democratic convention, I think it was after Biden had become the nominee. And so next to that, he had put another bumper sticker that said, fine, period, Biden, period. But this is bull. That's what the bumper sticker said. And it captured the feeling of so many progressive white people, certainly among, my friends in Portland, that, okay, Biden is the person. Jim Clyburn had a lot to do with that. And Biden, Elizabeth Warren lost and Bernie lost.
No,
and,
they were pushed out.
Well, yeah. I mean, those of us who supported either one of those candidates we were very disappointed, but we're like, okay, we'll get on board because that's what we're going to do. But our policies, these policies that we want, are still going to be very important to us. And so this is what Chaparral is saying, and this is what I'm hearing. Biden came into office as the compromise president, not as the corporate president, not as the person who most of us, I think, that are on this show right now, not supporting Biden because we like his corporatist policies. We're supporting him because we liked him better than the other person. And we felt like a lot of the progressive messaging might have been heard. And when we learned the first year and a half of Biden's presidency, a lot of that progressive messaging actually did get heard. But then he slid right back into corporatism, and Joe Manchin screwed things up for us, and Kristen Sinema screwed things up for us, and so forth. And when that happened, I did not see Biden getting out on the stump and saying, shame on you, Democrats. We've got to do these things. People are hurting. People have suffered because of the pandemic. The essential workers who have been treated so badly, we've got to do something to repair the damage that was done during the pandemic to essential workers who are disproportionately people of color. You didn't see him out on the stump.
I got 10 seconds. I'm
doing
sorry.
that, right? So that's what, if he started doing it now, that would be very good. Whether he will, who knows?
It would be necessary. You know what? You got the sister girl squeeze, Reverend Dr. Hughes. You got 20 seconds.
Sorry.
No.
20 seconds is good enough. Let's be real clear that when we see federal judges pulling back on diversity in terms of government, when we see the regressive politics coming out of the Supreme Court, not voting is not an option. What we have to do is push the administration to do what it needs to do and to make sure that our agenda, our issue is on the agenda. That's what we've got to do, because the regression that's going on now, if this slippery slope keeps going the way that it is, the next slavery is going to come without shackles.
Well, the question is, do you want to be on the menu or do you want to have a seat at the table? Get out and vote, everybody.
If Chaparral's cooking, that's all I got.
I love it. Celebrations by Santita Jackson here on AM 950 Radio. God bless you, everybody.